superior, Autobots inferior.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Studio Series Elite Class Soundwave. Based on the original 1986 animated movie, this is a figure that has been a long time coming, especially after the release of the now legendary 86 movie Megatron, which has now easily become one of the best figures ever made. And the Studio Series line, just in general, has a long track record in really setting the standard of what can be expected from the main line. Take the 86 movie Optimus Prime for example. That figure is so insanely close to how he appeared in the movie that not even the Masterpiece could compete. And with the Transformers Siege Soundwave now being extremely outdated, it was only a matter of time before we saw an update for the communications officer. So, as we whack up an image of how he appeared in the original G1 cartoon, visually he's not only looking to be incredibly close, but also a marked improvement in comparison to the previous Soundwave. Honestly, as we head into the 40th anniversary of the 86 movie, we are truly entering the golden age of Transformers. Between this line and Age of the Primes, we are now seeing updates that are so good that in the future, I really don't see how they'll ever improve. Take the 86 movie Hot Rod for example. He is simply the definition of a mainline masterpiece, and outside of a few minor complaints, is near perfect, with this guy being no exception. The head sculpt and entire upper chest are incredibly faithful to how he appeared on the show, and proportionally I think they nailed it. His chest is larger, with the colours being considerably more vibrant to better match up with the actual animation model. And as we spin around to the back, and again compare him to how he appeared on the show, he's looking to be equally as accurate, with the exception of this panel. Unfortunately, in comparison to the design of the Earthrise version, this is the one area where he's not really that much of an improvement. Honestly, considering that this guy is Elite Class, I was really expecting this area in particular to take some inspiration from the Masterpiece. Instead, his transformation is near identical to the previous version, which is a shame, as for the price point, this really should have been slightly more involved. The only other thing worth mentioning would be the lack of surface detail. We're used to these 86 movie characters having a certain amount of greeble sculpted into the design, and honestly with that lacking, it does kind of make him come across as quite simple in comparison. But besides that, this without doubt is the most screen accurate mainline Soundwave based on the animated movie, a fantastic equivalent to the Studio Series Megatron, and will now likely become the gold standard for the character for many years to come. Blasting through the accessories that Soundwave includes, up first is his over-the-shoulder cannon, his handheld blaster, 3 cassette tapes, then finally their accessories. Which means that unfortunately the figure does lack a to-scale version of himself, which despite not being essential would have been really cool to pair alongside Megatron. In addition to his 2 more iconic weapons being used in robot mode, they can also double as the batteries for the cassette, which is a great throwback to the original G1 toy and was even something carried over by the Masterpiece. The only slight downside to this would be how the missile has been completely cast in clear plastic, meaning that paint scuffing is unfortunately kind of inevitable. Now, to justify the Leader Class price point, this Soundwave is incredibly similar to what we recently saw from the Legacy United version. He includes Laserbeak, Ravage, and finally Buzzsaw, which are all completely brand new and are exactly the same in size as the previous cassette tapes. Honestly, I was quite surprised to see a new version of Buzzsaw released so soon, especially as he was one of the only reasons to pick up that previous Soundwave, and if I'm not mistaken, never actually made an appearance in the movie. Laserbeak on the other hand is a welcome addition, with the previous sculpt having been in circulation since 2018. There is some minor part swapping required in comparison to the Siege version, although visually is a huge improvement. The only slight downside to these two would be how there's no proper way to attach them onto Soundwave's arm. Unfortunately, this tab is just far too shallow, and considering that this was a look that we did see on screen, it honestly does kinda suck to see them not make it work. Which leads us onto Ravage, which is arguably one of the worst updates that we've seen in an incredibly long time. To be completely honest, I would have preferred had they scrapped them all together, in favour of giving Soundwave a slightly higher budget. Now, to be fair, between the three, he easily has one of the more challenging designs, and is somewhat limited in what they can do, whilst at the same time keeping him compatible with Soundwave, but definitely in my opinion, not that much of an improvement in comparison to the Transformers Siege version. diving into this guy's articulation, despite from an engineering standpoint still being fairly similar to the previous version, he's definitely the more dynamic between the two. So to begin with, the head is on a ball joint. This can look up, down, tilt side to side, and rotate left to right. The shoulders can kick forwards, backwards, and completely out to the side. The butterfly joints can crunch in and out. His biceps can spin, with the elbows being able to bend slightly past 90. His hands can rotate, with the fingers being articulated. His waist can spin side to side, with the hips able to kick forwards, backwards, and out to the side completely uncompromised. The thighs can rotate, with the knees able to bend to 90. Then finally, in addition to the foot being able to kick forwards and backwards, they can also rock inwards. So definitely a step up in comparison to the previous Soundwave, with the butterfly joints being easily one of the biggest improvements. But to see how superior this Soundwave really is, let's now put him through the pose test. Firing through some robot mode comparisons, up first is the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, the recently released Leader Class Megatron, which has definitely set the standard in how involved a mainline release can really be. And I've got to be honest guys, despite this Soundwave still being an improvement, it would have been interesting to see how he would have looked had the design team not included the cassette tapes in favour of a slightly more challenging transformation. 86 movie Galvatron, the soon to be replaced Studio Series Starscream, then arguably one of the most important comparisons, Voyager Class Blaster, which was one of the many reasons this update was needed, as the previous Soundwave was unfortunately slightly too small, which leads us into a comparison with that version, and I've got to say that there is a stark difference between the two. As to which Soundwave is truly superior, to be completely honest, I really think that's going to come down to personal preference. The previous version is fully detailed, which personally I like the look of slightly more, whereas the new version is definitely going for cartoon accuracy. Transformers Seed Shockwave, which is also expected to be replaced in the near future, Deluxe Class Devastation Optimus Prime, then finally the 86 movie Bumblebee. Commanding the way into this guy's transformation, as mentioned beforehand, unfortunately this is the one area where he's not really that much different in comparison to the previous version. So for the first step, pop open the forearms to allow clearance for the hands to slide inside. With the same now done for the second side, we can take this panel and snap it back into place. You'll now take the head sculpt and spin it around until the back now faces the front. Doing the same for the waist joint. We can now spin to the back and pop open these panels to allow this section to slide back and the head to slide inside. With that complete, we can now snap this back into place, and at this point attach on the weapons. You'll now take the shoulders and slide these back, with these panels snapping forward and this panel folding up. These can now slide out to the side, as what you'll now do is spin down to the legs, take the knees and compress them back. You'll then take the feet and spin them around, with this panel folding out, and these panels doing the same. With that complete, the feet can now slide inside the legs, with this panel snapping on top. You'll then rotate at the thigh, bend backwards at the knees, and snap the legs into the cassette deck. You'll then take the forearms and attach these into the legs. Then finally, with the same now done for the second side, we can take this panel and snap this into place, and that is the transformation now fully complete. Decimating his way through the battlefield of Autobot City, here is Soundwave now fully transformed into his cassette mode. And as we whack up an image of how he appeared on screen, visually from the front, he is looking to be an improvement in comparison to the previous version. Although, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the back. This is still incredibly unsightly, and for a $60 Leader Class, honestly a bit of a letdown. With Hasbro only having recently released the 86 movie Megatron, I was expecting Soundwave to be equally as impressive. Instead, with it including 3 cassette tapes, it unfortunately means that he doesn't completely make use of his price point. Even the 86 movie Blaster, I would argue, looks slightly better in comparison to this cassette player. With that being said, it still does look decent from the front, with the cassette deck being compatible with tapes dating back to Transformers Siege. The only minor inconsistency that I think is worth pointing out would be the use of clear plastic instead of a solid insert. Considering that in the cartoon, the cassette deck was always a bright blue, it is kinda strange not to see that carried over, especially with the robot mode having barely any sculpted in surface detail. Scrambling our way through some vehicle mode comparisons, up first is the Transformers Earthrise Soundwave, and visually from the front, the new version is most definitely an improvement. It's just a shame that the same really couldn't be said for the back. The Studio Series 86 Blaster, which I think arguably has one of the cleanest alt modes ever released. The Commander Class Optimus Prime, Leader Class Megatron, Deluxe Class Devastation Optimus Prime, then finally the 86 movie Bumblebee. So, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Studio Series Elite Class Soundwave. When in robot mode, the figure is simply a mainline masterpiece. He looks exactly how he appeared in the original cartoon. The only minor complaint that I have would be the extra set of buttons on his back. Considering that this guy is Elite Class, this is really something that I think they could have done a slightly better job in hiding. Especially taking into account that it's not that much different in comparison to the Earthrise version, which did originally release 5 years ago. The cassette player mode though is honestly the weakest part of this guy in my opinion. Having only recently reviewed the 86 movie Megatron, I was expecting something similar to the masterpiece. Unfortunately from the back, he's still a major eyesore, and had this guy instead been slightly more involved, then I think this maybe could have looked much better. Which leads us on to the accessories. To justify that leader class price point, he includes 3 cassette tapes. Honestly, I would have much preferred had they instead just included Laserbeak and put that budget back into Soundwave. But I would love to get your thoughts. Be sure to sound off below and let me know. As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Transform and roll out!